he goes over the clock speed somewhere here. Here it is. Yeah, this is what you want to see. This is the important shit right here. This is the important shit. Sub Damascus, sub test dummy. Okay, so what do you got? Okay, what's rule number 1, guys? What's rule number 1? Golden rule number 1. Nothing ever changes. Look at this. Turbo AVX2. Okay, we have a lot of math to do. Okay, hang on. Okay. So I didn't know the atom cores were gonna clock so low here. That's bad. Okay. 3 to 4 cores. 44. So we'll give it 4.6 gigahertz. Okay. 10 nanometer won't clock that high. Just straight up, 10 nanometer is not gonna clock that high. But we're gonna just give it to remove the argument of all these idiots out there that are like, engineering sample going to clock twice as high when it's released. We're just gonna ignore that shit right now, okay? 5 to 6 cores. What does it say there? 4.2 gigahertz. So we'll say 4.4 gigahertz. And then 7 to 8 cores. 4.2 gigahertz. This is being generous. That's adding 200 to what Igor's lab said. Okay. Sup undamaged, sup crafty. Oh, your girth can change, my friend. Oh, it can change. Okay, these are actually the 8 big cores that are like this. I actually initially thought that the small cores would clock the same, but they don't. So check this out. These are the big cores, okay? Atom cores. We'll just say 3 gigahertz then. 5 to 8? 3 gigahertz? I don't reveal secrets on this channel. You know me. Even the girth increasing ones. Let's move this up here. Ring clock. Ring maximum. 4.2. Okay, so LLC ring current maximum 4.2. Ring 4.2 gigahertz. Well, you know what though? We can't really use their numbers for ring because they advertised Comet Lake as a 4 gigahertz ring. But that shit hits 5 gigahertz on ring. They also advertised 4 gigahertz on Rocket Lake. But you're lucky to get 4.5. So maybe we'll say 4.5 on the ring for this. For all optimistically. We're just no, the ring is the same size. I'm pretty sure they put the little cores in between the big ones. I think that was their solution to the whole thing. Like you know how fuck, wait a minute. You know what they did with Rocket Lake? You know how the cores are physically bigger? Like this is like a 10900K. Whatever, just ignore the number of cores. And you know how the cores are close together, right? If the Rocket Lake cores are twice as big, it's just a fatter ass ring. But right, let's say this is Rocket Lake, right? But they could shove little cores in here. I think that's what their whole plan was. Like, how can we keep the power draw the same? Because the bigger the ring, the more power draw, right? How can we keep the power draw the same, increase core, and just shove these little bitches in here? Do you know what I mean? Just shove them in. So it doesn't actually change anything, right? I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing. I could be wrong, but that's just the most logical sense, right? We haven't seen like architectural diagrams yet, but let's say all 8 cores clock to let's just say, for argument's sake, that latency is the same as Comet Lake. Let's just say latency is the same, okay? 8 cores. What did Rocket Lake do? Rocket Lake, what did my video say now? Was Rocket Lake was like 12% slower than Comet Lake in Warzone, right? It was something like that. It was something quite large. What the hell was it now? Oh, it was 10%, wasn't it? Oh, on average, Rocket Lake. Okay, yeah, now I remember. On average, Rocket Lake was 10% slower than 10900K, right? I'll say 1100K with 20% higher IPC. %20 more IPC, 10% slower. What can you do with the math on that for Alder Lake if they increase another 20%? Right? Maybe this is 0 now, assuming the IPC scales. Right? Then what happens? We lost a gigahertz over Rocket Lake. Because Rocket Lake goes to 5.2 all core. Right? So this is where the math kind of starts getting complicated, right? Okay. This is where the math gets really complicated. So Alder Lake's going to be such a dog shit fucking CPU. Mark my words, man. Alder Lake is going to be dog shit for gaming. Let's say, what's a gigahertz loss? 5.2, or let's say 5200 divided by 4200. Oh shit, I fucked that up. Divided by 4200. That's a 24% clock speed loss. And you have to remember that they advertised Rocket Lake as a 5.1 chip, all core. That was in a slide. That's the key components here. So they advertised that with Rocket Lake, they had that tertiary thermal velocity boost, whatever nonsense they had, level 3 boost. If your CPU was under 70 Celsius or whatever, it would do 5.1 all core. Only the 1100K had this feature, right? Only the 1100K. All 8 cores. 8 cores. I'm not seeing that with Alder Lake. 10 nanometer problems. Okay, let's just say 4.5 gigahertz all core. Argument's sake, 5200 divided by 4500. That's still a 16% clock speed loss over Rocket Lake. So, assuming the 12900K clocks the same as Rocket Lake, which it doesn't, it would be 0. So we have 0, and then now we're back to minus 16, assuming those 8 cores go to 4.5 gigahertz. We haven't even talked about latency yet. Whereas minus 16%. We haven't even talked about latency. Okay? Now, the math gets kind of complicated here when you start talking about the little cores at 3 gigahertz. How is that going to factor in? So that would be like a 9700K at 5 gigahertz. Wait, how would I do that? 5 gigahertz divided by 3 gigahertz. 67% loss. So that would mean that'd be 34% gain, assuming that scales. 34, right? 34. So minus 16 minus 34. So now we're at plus 18. Assuming perfect scaling in the game. with the cores and the latency. Does that make sense? How do you think that's gonna go down? How do you think that's gonna go down with the game engines and shit? Do you think the game engine is gonna utilize that shit fully? Does it utilize that fully with Zen 2 chips? No. Now, let's go with latency. Let's go with latency. Comet Lake, let's say Comet Lake does every 10900K does, let's say 4.8 on the ring. Every single one does, okay? 4.9 is rare. 5.0 is really rare. You know what I mean? But 4.8, they can all fucking do that shit, okay? 10850K, some of those go down to 47. But 10900K will do 4800, okay? Divided by the 4200 on the ring for Alder Lake. 14%. So this is what you get at the end of the day. I think I did the math correct on that. So, assuming the game can use all the cores, all the threads, not worry about the latency penalty, all that shit, Alder Lake might be 4% faster than a regular 10900K. Not even a good binned one. Maybe. What game would use it like that though? Okay, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. Intel doesn't think, man. They released Rocket Lake. You think they think? Thinking isn't Intel's strong suit, man. Then it makes you wonder, how on earth is a game engine going to shift its load between the large cores and the small cores? And then how does the scheduling of the game not have an inherent latency penalty? It has to schedule it. The Windows has to schedule it. This is gone. At best, a 12900K is going to tie a 10900K. At absolute best. The common sense-o-meter is going off here. And we gave that engineering sample 200 megahertz on all the cores. We gave the engineering sample 300 megahertz on the ring. We gave it like a good 10% boost there. And at best, with that 10% boost that we gave it, it's gonna tie at 10900K. We're talking about gaming. We're not talking about like rendering multi-core Cinebench type shit. You know what I mean? If you're factoring in Cinebench, then that 20% from Rocket Lake scales. That 20% from Alder Lake is gonna scale. So you got 8 cores out of 40%, because Cinebench scales with IPC perfectly, right? So you can't really. Intel made their intentions very clear when they released Rocket Lake. What I mean by that, they made their intentions clear with the advertising of it. Memory overclock world record, CPU Z single thread world record, 8 core Cinebench world record, and then single core. They made their intentions clear. They're going for the marketing world record angle. I don't think they know. They like, there's no way they could have known what kind of damage to gaming they did with all this nonsense. They had no fucking clue, dude. You know what I mean? So all this shit that they're doing with this, you know what you can do though? Hang on, let me catch you up here. Best case scenario, 25% slower. Okay, you know what I would say about Alder Lake? Best case scenario, it's going to perform the exact same as Rocket League. That's what I would say. The reason I say that is because these little, okay, the reason why I say that, okay, like if you want to do some much more basal math, like really down to like just like the easiest math that you can do, a 4.2 gigahertz Alder Lake, let's say Rocket League does 5200, right, on 8 cores divided by 4200. Alder Lake has to come up with 24% performance boost. An IPC doesn't scale in games, clock speed does. So if they add 8 little 3 gigahertz cores, that's that 34% or whatever, which that's not going to scale in gaming, and the ring is lower too. So at best, my prediction is Alder Lake was going to be identical to Rocket League gaming wise, identical, because Rocket League has a gigahertz more. Of fucking gigahertz, dude. Like that's no joke. Do you know what I mean? Gigahertz scale. You know what I mean? So they're both gonna lose 1000K again. That's my prediction. So I don't think it'll be 25% slower. It'll be like 10%. 10% of a max overclock 1000K. So like a 1000K with like a good water cooler and some B-die will be 10% faster. That's what I'll say. We also have no idea how DDR5 is gonna overclock. It could be terrible, dude. That's an unknown factor that we're not accounting for. What if there's no DDR5 B-die equivalent, and all of a sudden you're like 60 nanoseconds of latency and shit? You're fucked. It's over. Stunskis. Unless they support DDR4 too, then you actually want to get that board. It's interesting. If you get Alder Lake, you'll want the DDR4 version so that you can actually use B-die, because you know what, it's better the devil you know versus a devil you don't know, right? Let somebody else test that DDR5 shit. Sup, Mella? But when I say they made their intentions clear, their intentions are clear again. This thing is going to be a Cinebench monster. It's going to be a power efficient monster, dude. The 4.2 gigahertz, or the 4.8 gigahertz single core with a 40% IPC boost. This thing's going to smash Cinebench. This thing will take the Cinebench world records by storm, and all the marketing advertising to go along with it. Look, people, we caught up to AMD. Just go back to rule number 1, everybody. Just go back to rule number 1. The unknown that we had up until now was looking at the clock speeds, but Igor literally listed the small core clock speeds, the big core clock speeds, and the ring clock speeds. We know it all. We know exactly where it's gonna fucking perform. It's over. That's fucking it. You know what the shitty thing is, though? You know what the shitty thing is? I bought a Rocket League chip and a Z590 motherboard, right? And it was okay because I just sold the Rocket League chip after I finished my testing because I don't want this trash bin, right? But now with Alder Lake, I can't really like put a 10900K in that socket. Like, what am I gonna do with it after I buy it for testing? You know what I mean? It's gonna be dog shit. Maybe find some use for it? Or some idiot on eBay will buy it. Someone will be like, oh, a 12 is bigger than 11. I'm gonna buy that shit. You know what I mean? Let me catch up here, boys. Stock up on 10900Ks. I already did, dude. I stocked up on that bitch. When it was on sale here locally, I stocked up. I bought 2 more. I need to have a 10900K in the backup for till the end of time, dude. Till like I need to have a functional 10900K for the next 10 years. because we're gonna be stuck on that CPU for the next 10 years, dude. Mark my words. 10 fucking years we're gonna be stuck on Skylake, dude. It's already been 10 years. We got another 10 years in this bitch, boys. We got another 10 years.